Hey everybody, today we're here discussing The Away, a Netflix original series starring Britt Marling.
Yes, this show is a very interesting series by Netflix, and it's about a young girl named Prairie who goes missing when she's in her early 20s for 7 years, and she shows back up one day with very strange behaviors and a very strange explanation as to where she's been. She recruits a group of kind of troubled youth and she begins to tell them their story. So the whole series is going back and forth between the present and the past and her description of what's happened to her up to that point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool, mystery involved in, what's going to happen next. There's really great cliffhangers involved in the story overall because you don't know where it's going. It's, really intriguing, really original kind of take on this whole person going missing, reappears years later kind of thing.
Yeah, this series really reminds me of the movie The Life of Pi in that it's got some very fantastical elements, but it's told in such a way that you are able to suspend your disbelief. There's some controversy over this series. A lot of people either love it or hate it. I absolutely loved it. There is some parts you're not 100% satisfied. They don't tie up all their loose ends. A lot of it's left to your interpretation. But of course, I think they had to do that if they wanted to do a second season. So I still really enjoyed it because it's fun to think about it. It leaves you wondering, and it's really polarizing because everyone has different opinions and theories as to the meaning behind the story.
Yeah, and not just the story, but the way that the story is told. It's fresh, fairly fast-paced, even though it's a lot of, talking, not a whole lot of, actual physical action kind of stuff. But it's so intriguing, and the acting in this is pretty well done for the most part. I felt that some of it was... there were some parts where it felt like maybe they were overacting a little bit, but it wasn't... that's just me. Other people could just see that as they're doing a really good job at acting. For the most part, it was really well done.
I personally didn't notice any overacting, but I really enjoyed the variety of characters in the show. But each character is still given depth and a personality that you can relate to. So I really enjoyed the characters. My favorite character is played by Phyllis Smith, and she plays the teacher. She was absolutely awesome. She's just my favorite character. She does a wonderful job with her role, and I think she was probably my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, the characters were unique characters, flawed but likable characters. I do, however, feel like 2, maybe 3 of the characters could have been fleshed out a little bit better in this first season, but hopefully we'll get a second season so we can get a little bit more fleshing out of their characters as well.
Speaking of which, and this is very frustrating, and it was very frustrating for me at first, but I've come to accept it. There seem to be several scenes in the series that aren't relevant, that the characters put a lot of relevance in, but when you get to the end of the series, you're thinking, what was that whole scene about?
There's almost no point to them, it seemed like.
Yeah, there was no point to it. And then, Prairie is our main narrator. She's the one telling the story. And there's a lot of scenes that aren't from her perspective. And it makes you wonder, well, how did she know that was going on? She wasn't there for that part. So that was there's a lot of scenes in the movie that just kind of feel they were pointless. And I'm hoping that in season 2, they're explained or they have a purpose.
Yeah, that's kind of a typical thing that movies, TV shows do when somebody's telling a story. They go off into some tangent of that story where the character wasn't present at the time. So how do they know that this happened? But you can just fill it in with your own head pretty easily.
But one interesting thing I think about this show is, and it was pointed out, that some of the later episodes are much shorter than the earlier episodes. I think one episode's 30 minutes long.
Yeah, it was kind of strange.
But that tells me that they aren't wasting space. They're not just making scenes for no reason and throwing them in there to fill up the time. They really only showed what they felt they needed to show. So that makes you wonder, what were those scenes about? Because they kept them in there for a reason.
Yeah, almost like chapters in a book. Some chapters are shorter than other chapters.
Yeah.
And then heading into like the cinematography, I really enjoyed the cinematography in this. I thought a lot of it was really well done and actually helped to tell the story along with the music. The music fit the tone of the show, fit the tone of the scene, each scene that it was in. And actually, I think the cinematography with working with the music really helped to actually kind of propel this story forward, as well as the characters and the overall story arc as a whole.
And I feel like we wouldn't really be doing the show justice if we didn't talk about Jason Isaacs' character. He plays Hap, the main villain. What are your thoughts on the villain?
Yeah, I thought he was a great villain and great addition to this overall story and actually essential to it.
Yeah, I found him to be a very unique and interesting villain. He's got a lot of layers.
Exactly, and we can't really say much more about that without getting into spoilers, which we will discuss next. So yeah, overall it's a great show, very well made, and we are hoping that they will make a second season and fill in some of the gaps that the first season kind of left us with. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.